Now, the reason I've been shouting and I haven't been using my mic is because the mic will pick up everything. Hopefully, the captain will hear us. I think we are good to go. Okay, so welcome everybody to the Ice Worlds Festival. Specifically, welcome to our strand of talks. We are hoping to go right now live to Captain Will Whatley, who is on board the Sir David Attenborough, and we can see. Hold on, I'm going to do a quick wave. Can you see us and hear us as well?
Yeah, yes, I can. Can you hear me okay?
Excellent. Yes, so you're coming through okay. I was just explaining to the group that we are very keen to make sure there's time for a Q&A session as well, and that might involve me running out and waving at the screen to let you know that we want to start asking you questions. But just before we do that, I should do a proper formal introduction. I'm going to read it just so we can get this, that I get this completely correct. So Captain Will Whatley is captain of the RRS Sir David Attenborough. That's going to be heading to the Antarctic. Will joined the British Antarctic Survey at the age of 19. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
Wow. Okay, and had his first Antarctic season back in 2015. So what we're going to be hearing about today is a talk about life on board the ship, life at the Antarctic, all sorts of things about what we do on these missions. So I think, without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to you, Captain. Take it away.
Thank you, and good afternoon. Firstly, I'd like to apologise for not being in the room. This would be a whole lot easier if I could be there. But as I'm sure you can all appreciate, one of our major priorities before deploying to the Antarctic is to make sure that our whole crew is COVID-free. So before we go to the Antarctic, we're going to be doing a hard quarantine, and we don't want any positive results to pop up during that. So we're being very careful at the moment, hence why this is on Zoom. But I will talk about what we're going to do in the season and a bit about icebreaking and the ship. So I joined this project to build this ship before anything was tangible. It was just an idea, all on drawings and just on paper. And I've been working on the project since the beginning of 2016. And I've been surrounded by a great team, and we've all worked hard to get the ship to the stage we're at now, where we are ready to deploy to the Antarctic for the first time, which is incredibly exciting for the team and me personally, having been involved for so long and been working towards this. So we're here partly to mark this occasion, and after we leave here, I thought I'd just run through what's going to happen next. So the ship will be leaving Greenwich on Sunday morning at 8 o'clock. We're then going to Harwich to load some cargo, and we'll go up to quarantine. And then middle of November, the ship is just going down to Portsmouth to collect some aviation fuel, and then we will be on our way to the Antarctic. We will first of all be calling at the Falkland Islands, which is where the ship is registered in Stanley, to collect some fuel and some last minute bits of cargo before going down to Rothera Research Station on the Antarctic Peninsula. Rothera is our largest Antarctic research station, and there is a new wharf that has been built there, specifically designed for this ship. So we are really looking forward to trying that out for the first time and delivering all the cargo. The first Antarctic season for this ship is jam-packed with loads and loads of port calls and lots of logistics work. So it's not much of a gentle introduction. We're going to definitely put her through her paces and make good use of the ship. One of the big tasks for the ship this coming season is to support the Thwaites project. So the ship will be inputting a lot of fuel and scientific cargo into parts of the Antarctic called the English coast. And in that area, the cargo will be taken inland to support the Thwaites project, which is a massive collaborative science project, which is the biggest science project that British Antarctic Survey has ever been involved in. So it's very exciting. The ship will call at South Georgia as well, where we've got another of our new wharfs that have been built for the ship. So we'll be trying that one out too. The ship will also go to Bird Island Research Station and Sydney Research Station, and be very busy taking people and cargo backwards and forwards to Rothera. The season will come to an end towards the middle of May, when the ship will start heading back to the UK. And we get back to Harwich in the beginning of June, and we'll then start our maintenance periods and test out lots of other scientific equipment and get ready to deploy to the Antarctic again in the autumn of 2022. So yes, this next Antarctic season is incredibly exciting, and there's a very positive mood on board because we're all very much looking forward to getting this ship to the place that we all love to work, which is the Antarctic. So the ship has been on sea trials for quite some time now, and that's been going very well. The image on the screen at the moment is when we went for our first sea trials, where we were just testing out the ship and making sure everything was working okay. And you can see us passing Tobermory there on the Isle of Mull. And we went all around the Western Isles, and yeah, we've been really pleased with the ship, and she handles very well. Her maneuvering capabilities are very good. We've got a lot more power in the ship's thrusters now, which is handy for coming out of port, but it's also good for when we want to do science in rough weather, because we can hold station using dynamic positioning, which is a computer which can hold the ship, and that uses the thrusters to hold us in position. And with the more power, we can hold position in greater weather, which means we can do science for longer in the stormy seas of the Southern Ocean. So, sorry, I'll just click to the next slide. So the ship has lots of capabilities. One of the ones I'll talk about first is our boats. We have a workboat called Erebus and a cargo tender called Terra. They are both very significant names for us. I'm sure you all have heard of the Franklin expedition with Erebus and Terra. The name of the ship itself went very modern, so we thought we ought to retain some polar history with the names of our boats. And one of the old British Antarctic Survey ships called the Bransfield had two launches called Erebus and Terra. So we kept some past history as well as organizational history by using these names. Coincidentally, after we had named the boats, we found out that the original HMS Erebus was actually built in exactly the same yard in Pembroke Dock in Wales as our Erebus. And Terra, the cargo tender, was built in Exeter in Devon, just down the road from Topsham, where the original Terra was built. So that was quite handy. Erebus is a fast workboat with science capability as well. She's got an A-frame on the stern with 500 meters of line for doing scientific deployments. And there's a shallow water swath bathymetry system, so we can effectively map the seabed with it in shallow water, which would be really useful. And we can just use it for moving people around at high speed. She can do about 25 knots, and she's a very handy little boat. Terra is for getting cargo on and off the ship in places where the ship can't get alongside. So in places like Bird Island and Sydney, which are our smaller research stations, we aren't able to get the ship alongside. So everything has to be discharged into Terra. Then Terra goes into the base alongside a jetty, and we crane off the cargo that way. And if we're at a place where there's not a jetty, she can go up the beach and there's a bow door. So the ship itself is a second home for myself and the rest of the crew. We spend half our lives on board. There are two crews. We alternate doing about 3 months each. And it's a very comfortable place to live and work. This is a picture of the bar, which is very nice and very large. There's day rooms, recreational spaces, so we can have plenty of room. When the ship is full, we can be up to 90 people on board. And that's quite a lot of people when they all need space to relax as well. I'm very fortunate to have a great team, and we all get on very well. So these spaces do get used quite a lot. The marine crew is around 30 people, and that is split into 3 departments. So there's the deck department, there's the engineering department, and the catering department. The deck department is split between the deck officers who drive the ship and do all the navigation, and then there's the deck crew who do all the maintenance and do all the scientific deployments as well. And the catering team keep us very well fed. They keep the accommodation clean and tidy, and make sure we've got enough stores for going away for a long period of time. And the engineering department are exceptionally busy because the ship has an awful lot of systems on board, many of which they all require regular maintenance. And they're busy at the moment double checking all their lists, making sure we've got all the right spare parts for the upcoming Antarctic season. We do all eat together in the same mess room, and this is it, which is great. The galley is quite large. It needs to be for catering up to 90 people a day. This is a picture of the galley, because we can go to sea for up to 60 days at a time. So we need to keep enough food for 90 people for 60 days. And that's quite a lot. So my favorite part of the job is driving the ship in the ice, and the thought process behind ice navigation. When we are driving the ship through the ice, we quite often use what we call the conning tower or crow's nest, which is an area above the bridge of the ship, and that's so that we can see further ahead, so we can plan where we need to go through the leads in the ice. Leads are the areas of open water between the ice, which is where we want to try and stay if we can, because we can make easier progress, and then only go through the ice where we don't have any other option. I'm actually sitting in the conning tower of the Sir David Attenborough at the moment, not because I need to see where we're going in the ice, but because it's the place with the best phone signal on the ship. So I could just turn the camera around so you can see the view from Greenwich today. I'm not sure if this will work with the sun, but you can probably see Cutty Sark and the museum there, and the heli deck of the ship down there. But when we're in the ice, we will be using this quite a lot, because this is the area where you've got the best view, and we can drive the ship from up here. So there's the main navigation bridge where we have control of everything, but up here we've just got main engine controls and steering, so we can control the rudders and the propellers, but nothing else. But that's all you need when you're in the ice, and it's nice and small, so you can't get too many people in here, but that's okay when you're in the ice. So this is a video from one of our previous ships. The Sir David Attenborough hasn't been into the ice yet. We'll be taking her into the ice for the first time in January of 2022, and we'll be experiencing conditions similar to this. As you can see from this video, when you are navigating through pack ice, you have to change your mind quite a lot, and you have to just consider your options to try and find the best way through, because you quite often come to a dead end where you can't make any progress and you have to back up and try again. It's really good fun when you can make progress and you can try options, but sometimes the ice will just close in around you, and then it's best just to wait for the wind to change, because if it's closing in around you, it's normally because there's some pressure in the ice, so it's pushing the ice together, and then you can't make progress because it's all just pushed together too tight. So when you hit it, it's got nowhere to go, and the best thing to do is just to wait normally for the wind to change. the ship is designed to break ice. So the bow is shaped a bit like a spoon. So when you come to a bit of ice, the ship actually rides up on top of it and then breaks it with the weight of the ship sitting down on top of the ice so it can move forward. You might wonder why we need to do ice breaking. One of the reasons is to do science in the seas of the Antarctic, which have ice in them, but also to be able to get to our research stations to supply them with everything they need. We have to go through pack ice to get to them. So that's just part of the job. When you can see where you're going in pack ice, it's reasonably straightforward. But when it's foggy or dark, sometimes we just stop. But if it's not too bad, you can still make progress if you're very careful about it with the radar. But the ship is designed to be able to move through sea ice, which is just salt water that's frozen. Because salt water is not all that dense, it's quite soft when you hit it for the ship, and that's what it's designed for. But if the ship was to hit fresh water that's frozen, which is glacial ice, that's come from a glacier, which normally forms icebergs and then forms bergy bits and growlers, which are the small bits which come off an iceberg. That's the stuff we want to watch out for, because that's the stuff which could damage the ship. It's quite difficult when you're just looking at a radar image to pick out icebergs amongst sea ice. What you normally get is this sort of shadow effect behind an iceberg, because it normally sits higher than sea ice would. So if you're going through ice like this, you can see all this yellow is the radar returns, and the ship is at the end of the white line there. So all the yellow is sea ice, apart from the bit where you get the shadow, which is icebergs, which is a useful technique for us to be able to determine what is sea ice and what are icebergs. One of the really interesting parts about being a captain of a ship in the Antarctic is when we want to moor somewhere, we quite often have to make our own berth rather than just tie up to a quay that's all ready for us. So this is a picture of an area on the Ronny ice shelf, which is in the southern part of the Weddell Sea in Antarctica. And we came to here with a previous ship, but we will be doing similar things to this with the Sir David Attenborough. And we needed to moor up in here to discharge cargo ashore to support a big science project. And we needed to go into that gap where that ice was. So we couldn't get the ship in there to scoop it out. So you can see what we're doing there is we're drilling into it so we could put a rope onto it to tow that ice out of the way, so we can actually go in and then put our moorings into the ice on the right of the picture. So you can see that's us towing that bit of ice out of the way, which left a really good ice port for the ship to go into, and worked really well. And we sat in there for about 10 days whilst we discharged all the cargo, and it was fantastic. So that is a picture of the ship at the Giant's Causeway in Northern Ireland, and that's the last slide. I'd just like to finish by saying that I cannot wait to take the ship to the Antarctic. We are all really looking forward to it, and I'd be happy to take any questions from this point onwards.
All right, great. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Captain. I'm hoping people will be able to hear. If you please give a round of applause. I'm going to hold this microphone. I hope that came through. Yeah, so we've got a little bit of time for questions, everybody. Now, it might seem a little unusual, but if you've got questions, I'm going to repeat the question because the captain is going to pick this up through this mic. Does anybody have anything they want to ask? Yes?
When the ship arrived yesterday, lots of black smoke coming out of the funnel. So how well is it emitted, and what fuel does it burn?
Okay, so the question was, So the observation was that when it was docking, there was black smoke being emitted. How does the ship run? What fuel does it use? How environmentally, what are the emissions of it?
Okay, so the ship is a hybrid, a bit like a car. So we've got battery banks and we've got diesel engines. So we burn low sulfur marine gas oil, which is the most sort of environmentally friendly fuel we can get. The ship's designed to be as efficient as it can and complies with all the latest standards for shipping and more to reduce emissions. But we can't get away from the fact that we do need to burn diesel to be able to do what we do, but we try and do it in the most efficient manner possible.
Anyone else? Oh, we've got one right up the back. I'm going to come and have a listen.
What's the worst sort of sea state that a new vessel can go through in terms of sort of wave height? Because obviously the southern oceans are pretty fierce.
Okay, so the question was, what are the worst conditions that you can put up with? What are the worst sea stakes, as you were saying? How well can it perform before you have to run away?
Well, I'm looking forward to finding out. But the ship's designed to be able to deal with the worst seas imaginable. It's more the people in it that I think would struggle. The main thing we'd have to do to keep the ship safe is just to slow down. We can't, if you go at full power into some massive seas head on, then there's a good chance we could start damaging the ship. But we would just slow down and try and avoid that. But yeah, the ship could take enormous seas. It's just we don't really want to do that if we can avoid it.
All right, fair enough. Yes, young man, if you want to shout, I will relay it. Ooh, that's a good question. So the question was, does the ship go to the Arctic and the Antarctic? Could you go anywhere?
Yes, we could. The long-term plan...
Your attention, please. This is the bridge. Can all guests who are currently lunching on the Clipper please start making your way down to the aft deck? Thank you.
Sorry about that.
No, we like that, I think.
Yeah, good. Yes, the ship will go to the Arctic in the northern summer and then the Antarctic in the southern summer. So it will be busy all year round.
We'll go through as many as we can.
What are the maximum food supplies that you can take?
Oh, okay, a question about food. What are the maximum food supplies you can take?
The ship's designed for 60 people for 90 days, but we could easily double that. And the other thing we have in mind is if we were to get stuck in the ice and had to stay over winter, we could survive with the amount of food we've got on board. We've got lots of emergency rations as well. We try to get most of our food before we leave the UK for all the frozen and the dried food. So next week we'll be storing up with everything we can get before we go. And then for most of the season, it should just be topping up on fresh stuff.
Can I just very quickly follow up with that? Can you make requests, or can crew members make requests? I mean, can you say, can we make sure there's loads and loads of ice cream, or?
Absolutely. I think the one thing people seem to request most is their favourite breakfast cereals. So yes, that does get a lot of requests, and as I said before, it's our second home, so we need to be able to have some creature comforts whilst we're away.
Yes, sorry, odd question, but what happens to all the human waste, and is there a compactor for all the recycling materials? What happens to that?
Okay, so the question is, what happens to all of the human waste, and how do you recycle? Is there a compactor for recyclable materials?
Okay, so human waste first goes through a sewage treatment system, which basically purifies it to the stage where I'm told you could drink it, but I wouldn't want to try it. but it's so that it can be, it's so pure it can be discharged. But we can retain it, and we do retain it as long as we can in the polar regions. But when we're outside the polar regions, we can discharge it because it's super pure. Compactor, yes, we do have a compactor, we have an incinerator, and we recycle as much as we can. It all gets packaged up and gets brought back to the UK for recycling. So we have quite a lot of waste processing equipment on board and storage facilities for it.
Okay, so the question was, what happens if someone gets sick? Is there a doctor on board, or are there medical facilities?
Yes, absolutely. We have a doctor on board, and we have a hospital with a 2-bed ward. I said to a friend of mine who was a doctor, we had a 2-bed ward, and they said they would just call that a room, but we like to call it a ward. It's a big step up from what we used to have.
Well, bear with me, I'm going to come down the front.
Thank you. Could the captain tell us a bit more about the research they're doing and what would be classified as a successful mission?
Great question. So the question is, would you be able to tell us a little bit about the specific research that you're doing, and also the great question, I think, what would be counted as a successful mission?
Well, a successful mission is if we get everyone home safe. That is the main thing for success. We obviously want to do as much as we can to achieve science, but safety in the polar regions is paramount. With regard to the type of research we do, there are so many disciplines of research that the ship can deal with. So we can do atmospheric science, we can do deep oceanography, we can do geology, where we've got the capability to take cores of the seabed, which are 42 meters deep. We've got capability to deploy instruments down to depths of about 7,000 meters if we need to. There's not much that the ship can't do in terms of marine science. So a successful science cruise is where you've got where you go out to collect a lot of data, and you come back with it. That's the main marker of success, I would say.
All right, thanks. I'm keen on getting some questions. We've got just a few more minutes. I'm keen on getting some questions from some of the kids as well. Young lady?
Do you need to share rooms, or do you have your own room?
Oh, that's a good question. Do you have to share rooms, or do you get your own room?
We all get our own, actually.
Are they luxurious? How nice are they?
They are quite nice, yeah. Yeah, we've all got a TV and a sofa, and everyone's got their own bathroom. So, yeah, it's pretty comfy.
All right. Let's see. I'll go to this young lady here. Bear with me.
What is the maximum depth of ice that it can break through?
Great question. What's the maximum depth of ice that it can break through?
Well, the specification when we built the ship was for it to be able to break 1 meter of ice at 3 knots. However, when ice breaking, the main thing is, as you hit a bit of ice, it needs to have somewhere to go. If it's got lots of ice packed in around it, then you're going to really struggle. So as long as it's got somewhere to go, we could break through ice that's much, much thicker than that. So it's more about the density of how much ice there is rather than the thickness. So yeah, if it's not that dense, we could go through stuff that's 3, 4, maybe even 5 meters thick, as long as you did it slowly. But yeah, if we're just breaking and it's all really close packed in, about 1 meter.
Okay. I think we've got time for maybe just one more, and then.
Question: what inspired you to take this career?
Good question. What inspired you to take up this career?
I grew up doing a lot of sailing on small boats and loved the sea, and decided when I was at school that I wanted a career at sea. So I joined the Merchant Navy at 16, and then did a Merchant Navy cadetship, which I qualified at the age of 19 with my Austria of the Watch qualification, which meant it's like a driving license for a ship. So I wanted to go and work on an exciting ship, and I'd heard of the British Antarctic Survey, and I thought it would be great to go and work there. And I was exceptionally fortunate that a job was going at the time. I applied for it and got it. So it was all pretty simple, really. But yeah, I've never looked back since. I absolutely love it.
Great. Well, on that note, I'm afraid, I know we would ask questions all day, but I'm afraid to say we're out of time, and we've got other talks and things like that. So first of all, can we all say thank you very much to the captain once again. Thank you very much for speaking with us today, and well, we wish you all the very best with the mission. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.